So I had to take a break and tend to the children for a second, but I'm back. Okay, so to make a long story short, I found a doctor that I wanted to have for my twins, but she wasn't taking any new patients at the time. But when I checked this time, she was accepting new patients. So I transferred from the doctor that I was going to her. And so we kind of fast forwarded everything, did everything really quick because I was coming in late to come to her because I just automatically assumed that I was going to be going to somebody else, but then I didn't end up going there, and then I had already started late because I was trying to, spend as much time with my father before he passed. I was going to the hospital. I hadn't even set up starting to go to any doctor's appointments before then. I went to one appointment, and so um, I gave her a little history about what had been going on with me in my life presently, and some history on my past pregnancies. And I was telling her I wanted to have my baby naturally because I had a C-section before, and it wasn't, what I wanted it to be because I didn't really want to have one, and my recovery from it was difficult. So, so she said, "Well, that's fine. We'll go ahead and proceed through this like we're gonna have the baby naturally." So all this time we're going through the pregnancy, we're trying to plan, get everything together. But during that time, she said that she needed to get my medical records for my um, twins, for me having my twins, and so she can get an idea of what took place during the time and what was in my medical records. So I requested the medical records, but for some reason they hadn't come, and then we had gotten kind of close to the time of delivery, like maybe 2 months before I was supposed to deliver, and or maybe 2.5 months, and she still hadn't gotten the medical records. So she finally got the medical records, and she went through them, and then she called me and she was like, in your medical records it said that you had a uterine rupture, and because of that, she was like, have you heard anything like that before? I was like, well, no, this is my first time hearing anything. No one said anything to me during while I was delivering. Nobody said anything to me afterwards. I didn't know there was anything in there that had anything to do with something like that. She was like, well, because of that, we have to shift gears, and you're gonna have to plan to have a C-section because I can't, by law, I can end up having some serious issues if there ends up being complications and all that, and I can't do that. So you're gonna have to go ahead and schedule a C-section. So I was feeling defeated, but I said okay, because I liked her as a doctor. She was really good. She was nice. She was straight up, straightforward. So I appreciated, what she was explaining to me, and I can appreciate the situation that she was in. So I told her fine. But in the back of my mind, I'm still not really wanting to do a C-section. So they scheduled me for a time for a C-section, and so the day before, I called them, and I'm like, it's so much going on. I'm still trying to get things together. I need to find somebody to watch my children that I do have because my husband was going to come with me. And so I said, can I try to reschedule it for a later date? And so when I spoke to her attending nurse, she said, well, I'll talk to the doctor, see what she says, and I'll let you know. So she called me back and let me know. She was like, well, you have a doctor's appointment with her tomorrow. So, we'll go ahead and reschedule it since you have a doctor's appointment with her tomorrow anyway. So I said, fine. So I get to the doctor's appointment, and she's like, we really got to schedule that. There's a lot this happened, and I can understand why you're uncomfortable, but just to be on the safe side, we need to go ahead and schedule this C-section for you, and blah, blah, blah. So we went through all that. I told her I understood. I know what she's saying, blah, blah. So I go home, and then I schedule for my cousin. Her and her family have set something up so they can come down and help us and watch the children while I'm having the baby. So I told her, this is the time, this is the second time that they set up, this is when we're scheduled to have the baby. And so they were planning on coming to stay for a few days while we go to the hospital, my husband and I, to, have the baby. So when we get, so I talked to them maybe another day and a half, a day before. My cousin's already on the road now by this time to come down to watch the children. I talked to him about a day and a half before, and I'm just like, I cannot, I can't do it. I couldn't just, set up a C-section. I was just struggling with it. It was just a lot going on in my mind and my spirit, and thinking about the past events and all that. And I just really couldn't just plan to do that. So I called and told her I need to reschedule again. She was like, well, you have a, so she talks to me on the phone. She's like, so she calls me when I try to reschedule again. She's like, you know what? Um, I'm not going to be able to be your doctor if you are going to go ahead and try to do the baby naturally after what's in your medical records. She said, she explained all her positions and how she, her medical stance on it and her feelings about it. And she said she understood where I was coming from and why I feel the way that I do. But she'll let me know how things work out. She said by the time I got done talking to her on the phone, she's like, I'll talk to my colleagues and we'll discuss it, and I will, let you know. But right now it feels like, I'm probably going to have to, let you go as a patient. She was like, but you're so far along, it's going to be hard for you to find another doctor at this point. And I was like, yeah, well, I understand that. I said, but I know, you have to do what you have to do, or what you feel like is, best for you. So I understand. So she said, well, I'll let you know. So I had a doctor's appointment 2 days after that, scheduled for right before I was supposed to, because they had me on the schedule for some reason anyway. They still had me on schedule to see the doctor, even though I was supposed to be having a C-section. So they still had me on the calendar for the Thursday before or something like that. So she said that she saw that I was still on the calendar and we'll talk then. And so I get off the phone with her and I just started crying. And I called my brother and I just explained to him everything that was going on, and how I just felt like, I wasn't feeling good. So I talked to my cousin. I said, even if she wrote up a letter saying something, like, that she explained to me everything and the risks that were happening, that I would just, that's okay. That way it would take the liability off of her and put the responsibility on me, that I'm taking this upon myself, knowing what it is that she has to say about the situation. So my cousin gets into town, and then I go to my doctor's appointment. And when she comes into the room where I am, she has papers in her hand, and I'm like, I didn't think nothing of it at first. So she was like, you know what? So after our conversation, I talked to my colleagues and I decided to write up a letter. And I wrote something up saying, what it is, everything that I explained to you, and I'm gonna give you a copy of it, and the other copy I put in your medical record so that they have that on file. But that way I could still be your doctor, and we'll go ahead and just monitor your progress from here on out and see how things go, and go to do your doctor's appointments up until, whenever he decides to come, and you'll go ahead and try to do this baby naturally, and, we'll see how it goes. And I just wanted to jump through the roof because I hadn't said nothing to her about doing a letter. I spoke to my cousin about it and said that that's something that would be, good to do. But when she came in there, she had it in her hand. So anyways, so I'm thinking now, all right, so we got time to have this baby, but now my cousin's in town and she's supposed to be here for me to have the baby. So now the clock is ticking on that too, but I'm thinking it'd be nice for me to have him on September 3rd. My family is full of September babies because my twins are September, my husband, his father, his sister, all September babies. And so it would just be nice. And I love the number 3. So, the 3rd would have been nice. And it was already like the 28th, 29th or something like that is when I was originally scheduled to have the C-section. So I'm like, okay, we're coming up on it. No, I don't know what's going to happen. They have to go back to, to their home. So we get to the day of the 3rd. I call the doctor, call to the hospital and say I'm on my way because my water breaks while I'm sitting there chit-chatting. It might be 7:30 in the evening or something like that. We're just sitting there hanging out, and my water breaks. And so I'm like, okay, here we go. So I called the hospital. They was like, okay, your doctor's not on call tonight. And so I'm like, oh boy, okay. So we've been down this road before, so I'm thinking I probably know how this is going to turn out. So, but I get to the hospital. My husband and I, we drive to the hospital. We get in there, and the doctor comes in, and she said, "Hi, my name is Dr. Angel." And already I'm just kind of chuckling because you're Dr. Angel. Okay, I love it. All right, so she said, and I talked to your doctor. She explained to me everything that's going on, and we're gonna have this baby naturally, okay, and everything's gonna be fine. I was like, praise God, like what? Okay, just another reminder that He's looking out, and paying attention. All right, so it is the third. Today is the third. We're on the third now, and it's already seven something on the third. Seven, eight something by this time. So the time is just ticking, ticking, and the contractions are like in full blown. It might be 10:45, 11 o'clock, or something like that. And to make a long story short, he comes, and it's like 11:15 or something. And I said the timing, God's timing is perfect timing, because even though I thought that it was too close and that he wasn't going to make it, he came 7 pounds 7 ounces on the third at like 11:17, I think it was, p.m. So um, I just had to share this. I've been wanting to share the story for a long time, because there's so many different aspects and lessons within the story that people can pull from and encourage themselves, because it's I say this all the time, but there's so much going on around in and around us in our lifestyles, in our homes, just people in general. And we have more that binds us, I think, than what separates us. And so being able to share our experiences with one another, especially if it's going to be things that's positive or encouraging or motivating, I think that we all should do that. So I hope that my story will encourage somebody's spirits, and that you have a blessed evening. So until the next video, y'all have a good night.